today's topic is agreement. It's about becoming one.
Yes.
I think a lot of people talk about that. Two must become one. That's what the Bible says. So how do you become one? We want to talk about that today. And in doing so, we want to talk about the power of
Yes.
agreement. Our base scripture would be Amos 3:3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? The answer is no. You must be
You have
agreed.
to, and just we're going to share just how important it is to be in agreement and what it really looks like,
Yeah.
what it really means, because there's a such thing as going along with something,
Yeah, and that being agreement.
and actually being in agreement. And I can definitely talk about that part. Just going along because you're trying to do the right thing, but really in your heart, you're not in agreement, and you don't get the results that agreed people get.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Well, you got to understand something about agreement. The Bible talks about it a lot, but it's just something that's just universally true. Whenever you have agreement, there's power in
Yes.
agreement. We're going to say that a lot, but it's true. There is power when you are in agreement about anything. You ever been in school and worked on a group project? There's chaos when people don't agree, but there is, when there's agreement, things work. Success does not come when everybody's going their own separate direction. Success comes when everyone's in agreement about the direction we're going, and then you can do that perfectly. You can do that successfully. I think agreement is good because when you know what your goals are, if someone starts getting off track, you know how to correct them. But if there is no rule, if there is no law, no rules of action of how we're going to engage this thing, if you're getting off, how do I know you're getting off?
Well,
how do you know
I
you're
think
getting
agreement is very important because it focuses your energy.
off? Exactly.
And think about, in a marriage, our attempt is to be one about something.
Yep.
But if you're split going one direction, if I'm split going in one direction, then our energies are diffused
Yep.
and it's weakened. But when we are together on something, both of our energies come together and make one energy that's strong and powerful and able to conquer or overcome whatever we're dealing with. So that's why agreement is so important. And the power of agreement between married people, it is so powerful. I mean, it is like the most powerful force and union that God ever created. So it's very imperative that you seek agreement in your relationship, no matter what it is. There's not anything in a married relationship that should be handled out of agreement.
Yeah.
Because you're going to run into problems. And we're going to share just a few things that, we dealt with in our first year of marriage. And I can tell you, being in agreement is way better.
Yeah.
And we're actually getting the results that we initially wanted in the beginning. But we was not in agreement. And I can talk about my side. There was a lot of things that I was not in agreement with.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to be textbook wife. You know what I mean? I'm going to go along with your ideas and stuff like that. And I didn't want to... in my mind, I was thinking about you. I was saying, I don't want to make you feel like I'm always coming against what you're doing, whatever. But I was just kind of going along with a lot of the things. And they weren't bad things, but I just wasn't in agreement with them.
See, I'm the type of husband that I go into prayer and come out and be like, the Lord said you need to do this. And look, it's kind of hard, if you're trying to be a good wife, to say, I don't think the Lord told you that. I think you maybe have missed that one.
And it's
kind
like,
of difficult to say
I'm going to
that,
tell you right now, I almost got to the point when we first got married that I used to hate it when he would come home from work or from his prayer time, whatever, and he was telling me, the Lord said, he'd be like, the Lord said one more thing. One more thing, God. And it was like, well, why the Lord ain't speaking to me about this? Like, why am I not feeling this? So, me, like I said, trying to be textbook wife and wanting him to be the head of the household. And I just believe that, God speaks to him differently. And maybe God do speak to you differently about things. But God speaks to me too. Like God will speak to the wife too, because he understands that we're supposed to be in agreement. Even if God don't give me the direct direction about something, he will give me confirmation in my spirit that this is where we're supposed to be doing, so that I can come in agreement, because God understands agreement is important for us to move forward.
What I had to learn was that the way God spoke to me when I was single was different from the way he spoke to me after we got married. He began to give me things, and then it would be like there'd be a cap where he would stop talking and then be like, now you got to go talk to your wife and get an agreement about this. Like, there's not, I've gotten so much better at it now. There's some things that he'll talk to me about that I won't bring up immediately. I'll just keep meditating it until he gives me a fuller picture. Because I would get like the first step of something, then I'll go to her about it. Let's do this.
And scare me.
Exactly. And it wasn't a fulfilled thought. It was like one piece of the image, one piece of the puzzle, but not the full thing. What I've begun to do is meditate things and gestate things. He gives me a fuller image. And then if I let him finish, sometimes like you hear something, you run off. If I let him finish, then I realize, okay, you maybe show me this big picture, but you only want me to do this first step. And a lot of times, I would say 100% of the time, he's not going to give me the entire thing, because what would she be here for if she wasn't supposed to be contributing to this? And that's one thing you got to understand. God's going to speak to both of you. And so you got to communicate about the things that God's talking to you about, not from a standpoint of the Lord told me to do this and you better do it with me, but from a standpoint of, I think this is what I'm hearing from God. Tell me what you think about that. What do you see? Because you got to practice communicating with your spouse as if you're both God hearing people. You got to practice that. And if you have a spouse who's kind of lagging behind and hearing from God, that'll actually grow them up, because you'll begin to challenge them to have a relationship with God so they can contribute to it. So you're not the one just running the bus all day. Because if she's my co-pilot, it's like, we got to be in agreement about this. I can't do this and run this on my own faith. This is our faith project. This is our business. This is our family. This is our whatever, and there's so many things couples disagree about, but you got to get in agreement. And it's the same God, so you can't be afraid that you're going to miss it, because the same God is speaking to us.
I know that there's a lot of questions too, because it's probably somebody thinking, what if the husband or the wife is slowing me down or slowing the project down because they're not hearing from God? Because I know there's been plenty of times where I frustrated you because I'm much slower in moving on certain things than you are, especially when you say you hear something from God. So sometimes you would tell me something the Lord said, and you would say, well, go pray about it. And then it'd be 2-3 days later, you're like, well, have you heard anything from God? I'm like, nah. So that will frustrate you so bad. And I would get frustrated because seeing you frustrated, and I didn't want to frustrate you. So I'll sometimes just go along with stuff.
So when it comes to my wife, there are things that I'll mention to her or will share with her. Sometimes not about something for us to do, but just anything. And if she doesn't seem to get it the first time, I can't get frustrated. I got to give her time. And I've got to trust God enough to know that we're not going to miss anything.
Exactly.
We're tithers, and it says in the Bible that tithers, that your vine will not cast its fruit before its time in the field, which means that you will never be too early, or too late for anything that God has for you. So I've got to trust. He hooked us up. He orchestrated this thing. He knows the timing. So I can't be afraid that, if she doesn't get it, I just know how to do that. I'll try to push it and get her to see something, explain it 50 million ways, and it would just frustrate the situation. It would be an argument about something spiritual because I'm trying to push it instead of just letting God speak to her. And understanding that maybe I'm not right about this, or at least not 100% right about it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe her being slow about being on board is actually going to preserve us from falling on our faces and breaking something, So you can't be so prideful to think that you're right all the time. Well, I heard from God. Look. There's something called submission. Submission protects you because it keeps you from making mistakes because you think you heard something from God and you move too fast. You got to have somebody you're submitted to who can tell you, hold up, no, let me tweak this. You're missing it a little bit. And the moment you think that you got it all by yourself and you can hear from God solo and never be corrected by anybody, it's the moment you're in deception, and you will lose. Never follow somebody who can't be submitted unto someone else.
Well, the Bible says a house divided cannot stand. And that's just so true. So if you're divided between each other about something, you're going to fail. You're going to fall. So even for me, there were things that I felt like he should have caught on to or got a revelation about, and because God gave it to me a certain way and I would share with him, and he was just like, okay, or he wasn't excited about it or wasn't on board with it. Because there were plenty of times I would come to him about, like, babe, I think we should do something this way or do it this way, and you just like, for whatever reason, you didn't get on board. So
I thought I was right all the time and she was wrong most of the time.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. I get it. My husband is very intelligent. He's very calculative, and he's analytical, okay? Me, I'm more of I feel it in my gut kind of person. Yeah, I do. I take time and I feel it. If it don't feel right, I'm more discerning than he is about, things. So he's more of an action guy. He will make a plan today. Tomorrow, you would have a spreadsheet on how to get this done. I mean, that's how he is. And I love that about him, but it's also very frustrating a lot of times, depending on what the scenario is. Because things got to be different for me. Got to be right a certain way.
It's one of the things that I learned in our counseling session when we were getting married. One thing that I remember very clearly is he said, the pastor who was counseling us said, don't ever, he was talking to me, he said, don't go and do something that God told you to do without your wife being in agreement. If you believe you heard from God, wait until she hears it too. If she's not in agreement, don't do it. It won't work. And I kept that. And I don't think I always completely followed that completely.
No.
But, well, here's the thing. I wouldn't go and do stuff without her, but I would try to, like I said last week, browbeat her and try to make her see it, because I felt like we got to do this now. If we don't do this now, we're going to miss out on the blessing, and I was just really foolish.
Well, I'm going to, an example of that is Jalen's a giver. He's a super giver. There's not a selfish bone in his body when it comes to giving. He will give his last dime. He will give his last t-shirt. He will give his last pair of socks. He will give his last morsel of bread to anybody or anything that he feels needs it. And that I love about him. But at the same time, sometimes I would like, okay, babe.
But I'll give her last morsel of bread.
Yeah,
too. There you see the problem.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it can be a little bit scary sometimes. I'm not going to even lie. And I'm like, okay, God, what am I to do with this? Because I don't want to ever tell him not to give. If God is speaking to him by giving, babe, give. But what we both realize is I couldn't just go along with it just because he's a giver and he said God said it. I need to hear it too. I need to know. And it's not that I require God to give me all the download details about it, but I need to have a witness in my spirit about it too, because it's our money, it's our resources, and I need to be in agreement so that the blessing, the full blessing, can go along with it and we can get the results of it, of the results of reaping the harvest from my giving. So I can remember he was doing it a lot when we first got married, and I would just go along with it. And even though sometimes I've been gritting my teeth and, you just don't know. I mean, I could go for days talking about some of this stuff. But I can remember just once we sat down and said, look, we're going to be in agreement about everything. We laid out the money. This is what we're going to give. This is what we're not going to give. And we had to talk about, okay, he would talk to me and he was saying, Cacie, are you in agreement with me giving this amount of money for this particular project or this ministry, whatever? And sometimes I was tempted to say, sure, but then I was like, you know what? No. I had to tell him, no, I'm not in agreement about that.
Let me get very specific. There was a point where we were giving a lot because Bible says to give, but she wasn't in agreement with all of it. So I actually had to dial some. We had to actually go back and reevaluate all this. I said, look, there was a lot of giving that I was doing out of my finance. I'm talking about like continuous monthly giving. And I said, I was doing before we got married. And I just kept doing it. And then I signed us up for some other stuff to start giving into too. And you went along with a lot of it because you were never going to say no to me. I said, but how much were you actually in agreement with? I said, because the seed we're putting in the ground spiritually is not yielding a harvest, we're not in agreement. I said, so the floor is yours. I wrote down everything. Made a little spreadsheet. It's all the giving we're doing. Tell me what you're in agreement with. And if we're not in agreement with it, then we'll take it off the list. And I had to be afraid that I wasn't going to lose out with God because I felt like he told me to do it and, and all that. And we got counseling too. We went to our pastors, we got counsel, and they were in agreement that you got to be in agreement, So
because then otherwise you're just throwing away money.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not helping anything.
It taught me some things about my giving, that although it was good for me to be reckless with giving and that money doesn't own me and resources don't own me, but I was so reckless with giving that I wasn't keeping track of what I was giving and I wasn't reaping any results from it. We went down and we crossed some things off and said, all right, this is what we're in agreement about and this is what we're going to give. And it was like almost scary for me because I was like, no, we got it. But after we did it, prospering. Everything was working together. I can do anything that I want to do, but I don't do anything I want to do. I do only the things that we're in agreement about. And I think for both of us, we're probably still learning in some areas, but learning to I remember one time you had spent some money. You were like, I almost wasn't going to tell you that I spent this money, but I realized I had to do it. And the same thing with me. There's something, a decision I made. I can't remember what it was. Maybe some money too, but I was like, but I got to ask her first. I got to tell her that I did this. I can't hide this from her.
Because it affects the whole budget.
Yeah.
It affects the whole household. If I just start spending money frivolously without him knowing. And I'm going to tell you what it does, really. It's not that the money wasn't mine to use, whatever, but you can get into a habit. I think it opens doors for other things to creep in when you're just dishonest that way.
Yeah.
When you just hold back information from your spouse.
And it's selfish. You're trying to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You're trying to preserve yourself.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I wasn't going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. And it brings not only freedom, but it's trust.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing that it builds in your relationship is trust. Because now I believe I sort of see the trust in him towards me about our money. He can trust me with our money.
Yep.
And because we now have established this line of communication, we're on the same page. So me telling him, babe, this is what I'm going to do with the money. And he had no problem with it. And it wasn't me giving permission, but it's saying that I'm a team player. And I'm not going to do anything without my teammate. And I want to build this trust between us. And that's what it says. And that speaks volumes in your relationship.
That speaks respect.
It
both
does.
spouses want to be respected.
Absolutely. We were talking about this on the way home to doing this video about how important this agreement thing is. And how that first year or two of being married, how important it is for you to dial back everything.
Yeah, take it away on this one.
That you were before you got married.
Yep.
And I know for a lot of people that can be scary, especially if you're a very entrepreneurial, very motivated type of person. It could be scary to think, I'm going to have to dial myself back a little bit to be married. That's why a lot of people aren't married today, because they're afraid of giving of themselves. Now, I've been in business for myself for a very long time, been doing it by myself for a very long time. So I knew that getting married, I was going to have to adjust how I did my business. And that could be a little scary, a little daunting now. Because now I got a husband, I consider him and his opinions, his thoughts about what I've been doing all this time. Like, what do you know about what I've been doing? Blah, 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 blah. But I decided right away, I said, you know what? I'm going to take my business, the business that I believe God gave me. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it to the side for a minute. I'm going to dial back the attention that I put towards it. And I'm going to put all my attention on being a wife to you. Learning you as my husband. Learning how you communicate. Learn how to talk. And if God truly gave me this business, if God truly gave it to me, then he's going to keep providing for it. He's going to make it work. Because it's a very important time, that gestational time of your marriage, where you got to build that foundation between you and your spouse and bring both of your collective, what's what I'm looking for?
Dreams, visions, energy.
Something else I want to say about that. Our collective, well, I guess your energy together and just kind of figure out your life. Because there's no room for selfishness in a successful marriage. No, for real. If you're going to have a successful God-like marriage, a God-looking marriage, you cannot be selfish. God is the ultimate giver. We can't outgive God. We can keep up, but we can't outgive him. He's the ultimate giver. So if you're going to have a God-ordained relationship, you have to be willing to give of yourself. You cannot get married with the idea that I'm going to get married and still be myself.
Yeah.
That is no. You're now supposed to be becoming one flesh, one focus, one aim, one direction. That's what marriage is all about. And the fear that the enemy puts in us is that we're going to lose ourselves. And a lot of times, you get counsel from other women, don't lose yourself in your husband. Don't lose yourself in your family. Don't lose yourself. Well, I know what they're trying to say, but in a God-ordained relationship where both parties understand their roles in their marriage, if they're both pursuing it the right way, there's no possible way that God Almighty is going to allow you to lose yourself. You cannot get lost in the things of God. You only get found more discovery. And I have found for myself in the past 3 years, I am more alive than I've ever been in my life, both spiritually, even physically, mentally. I have more clarity about myself and who I am since I've been married. I've discovered more. My borders have expanded because there's so much value that you've added to me, but only because I opened myself up to the gift that you are, and vice versa. We definitely look good married.
Talked about having to lay stuff aside. There are a lot of things that I had to do the same thing with.
He did.
I had these ideas and inventions, this stuff I was working on, and I realized I had to slow down and press the pause button and stop button. I was in the middle of starting a new business separate. I was in the middle of trying to do there's a couple different things I was trying to do, business ventures. I had to slow it down and stop it, because I realized I had to give 100% attention to learning this woman and becoming a husband unto her, to serve her 100%, because that was what was going to be pleasing to God. I had to trust that God was going to make sure that all the vision that was in me, I wasn't going to lose it because I was serving this woman. And if you can't trust God enough, see, the problem is you don't trust your spouse enough because you see all their flaws now that you're married.
Yeah.
But you got to trust God. He is the rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And you're seeking God when you obey his word by doing this. This is seeking the kingdom. And then he'll add all these things to you. So never be afraid that when you begin to seek and how to serve your spouse, that you're going to lose something. You're going to lose your identity. Your identity is hid in Christ. So you're going to get closer and closer to Christ the more you get closer and closer to your spouse and learning how to serve them properly. You're not going to lose anything. You're going to gain everything. We are both so much better as individuals and better to this world as a whole because of being married to each other. But we both had to make that sacrifice of being willing to put everything on the side until we could become one and become an agreement. And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I mean, any struggles that we had in the beginning, it was because one of us was not willing to give of ourselves.
Yeah. Becoming one isn't just how to make a good marriage. It's the only way to do marriage.
Exactly.
It's the only way. Exactly. It's the only game in town. If you want to be successful in marriage, you got to become one and you've got to agree on everything.
I know that the longer we're married, we're going to continue to grow in this and get better and stronger. And we will still have opportunities where we're not going to agree. But we've learned that we're not going to move forward on anything. I don't care how good the idea is. If he's not on board with it, I'm not moving on it.
Yeah.
And there have been times where he would say, babe, I'm not sure about that. But I'm like, but I want to do it. And he'll say, okay, I'll let you do it. And then it didn't work out because I didn't have his agreement. And I don't want y'all to think, well, you don't need a man's permission. No, I need his agreement. Permission and agreement is two different things. I need his agreement because I need what God put in him to be on what I'm doing and vice versa, because we are a team. We are a team and we are a team of one. Yeah. It's not Team Cacie, it's not Team Jalen. It's Jalen and Cacie. We are a team of one. And that's how we see life now. And it's been working for us. So I encourage you, if you're struggling with agreement, get on it. You got to sit down, peel everything back, and be willing to stop everything. I don't care how long it takes. Stop everything. I was at the point where I was willing to stop business at all. I said, if I got to close shop, I will. I'll close it. And believe God to reopen it again. I will close this business before I'll let it divide us. Yep. And that's just how serious I am. I will shut everything down. I'll stop doing ministry because this is my first ministry. Yeah. You're my first ministry. Yep. I will stop everything to make sure that we're on the same page and agreement, and then let God rebuild from there. That's how serious we are about being in agreement about everything. And since that mindset has been in us, our lives is just taking off by leaps and bounds.
Here's the interesting thing about marriage. It brings boundaries. It binds two people together. But it also brings abundance and increase. Anything God creates brings increase. And he created marriage. And it expands your boundaries. See, you get so limited in your thinking when you're individual. When I'm on my own, I'm single. I can go where I want to go. I can stay out as late as I want to stay. And I can have fun. But when you get bound to a spouse, suddenly you can't just make those decisions unilaterally anymore. You got to find out if your spouse if that's all right. Are you all right with me staying out that late? Or maybe we need to go together. Or maybe we need to do this. Or maybe we don't need to be going out today. It's not good for the budget. So all that are restrictions. And if you're a very independent person, you don't like those restrictions. You don't like those boundaries. But when you come in agreement and you create those boundaries, suddenly the abundance of God can hit that marriage. And now your boundaries get expanded. So even though you are still within boundaries of this marriage and of y'all agreement, suddenly your scope increases. And now you can do more. And we can do more, but we can do it together.
It only feels like bondage. When you are walking in selfishness. Yeah. That's the only time marriage feels like a bondage is when you are selfish, when you're not willing to give of yourself, when you're not willing to be open to your spouse. That's when it feels like bondage.
But it brings freedom. When you get two people in agreement about something, there's so much power in that.
Can't stop
and you expand your boundaries.
You just cannot stop that kind of agreement.
So it's good boundary and it's good binding to one another. And it's checks and balances. It keeps you safe.
It does.
It really does.
And I just want to clarify one thing. I know we mentioned that, you may have to stop all your business ventures or whatever. We're not telling you to stop your business. You may not have to close down your business. You may
she had to close down hers.
Yeah, I did not have to close down my business. However, I was willing to. Yeah. You have to be sincerely willing to drop everything if that's what it takes to make your marriage good. And I think a lot of times we see a lot of people struggling 10, 15 years on the road is because in the first couple of years, they didn't give themselves time to gel together, to learn each other's language. They didn't give each other time to develop their wifeliness or their husbandness. I don't know, I'm putting this on the end of words. It's not really the way you're supposed to do it. But they didn't allow themselves to develop as one. So they struggle because you find two people married for 10, 15 years and they're still acting like they're single. And that's just, something's wrong with that.
Yeah, you're not single anymore. You're married.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just it. Like, stop trying to be Mr. or Mrs. Independent. Like, I'm not that way. You know, I can't. Your spouse needs to know everything that's going on. Don't hide anything from them.
There's protection in that.
Let your spouse know. If you're kind of hesitant about it, that probably means they need to know about it. Or you just didn't need to be doing it in the first place.
I would say that in the midst of the world that we live in now, we would probably consider extreme married people. The way we talk, the way we believe is very extremely different than what society is pushing at us right now. Because they preach this idea that, you know, don't let a man change, don't let a woman change you. But it's impossible to not change in a fruitful relationship.
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to. When you put a seed in the ground, it changes. Its whole composition changes in order for the tree to grow, and so that at some point it will blossom fruit. You can't stay the same. That seed cannot stay the same and expect to be a fruit tree, a fruit-bearing tree. So if you got the seed of marriage, if you got two people coming together to become one, do not expect to be the same. It's impossible. And for it to be growing and be fruitful, you know. So what's the point of being together if you can be the same person? And the truth of the matter is, some people just want to be married for the status. They want to get married because everybody else doing it. It's pressure. Some for financial security. Which in turn will not be financial security.
Think about it. All the things for you is selfish.
Yeah, it's
If you get married for selfish reasons, you will not be successful. What happens is two people get married, and I think you think that however old I am, and when I got married, I'm just going to come on number 20. I'm 20, I got married, and I've been living this life for 20 years, and I've achieved whatever success I've got, so I know what I'm doing. And then you get another person, well, I've been living for 20 years, and I got success too, so I know what I'm doing. And so you got two different perspectives, and now y'all supposed to bend to each other? Well, no, I'm independent. And then it doesn't work, and so you're not in agreement, and maybe you end up with divorce, or you just end up with an unsatisfied marriage because you're not in agreement. But you got to be willing to come together and sacrifice your viewpoint and understand that I don't know everything. And this person can teach me something. And maybe, just maybe, that's why God put us together, to teach each other something. And we learned that a lot, that we've made each other better. You just made me a better person, babe.
Yeah, I have.
I look better.
Yes, you do.